Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Red-Rupee Cast, featuring Dawn of War 2 Retribution. Before we get started today, I'd like to put out a little thanks to all you guys. I know I haven't been around much the past few weeks for various reasons, of course, and I've noticed the subs have kept coming in, the comments have kept coming in. I've been getting game submissions from lots of people. Don't worry, I'm working on those. But I see now I'm sitting at over 250 subscribers now, which is pretty awesome. I know that's not necessarily a lot, but I appreciate the support. I know I've just been getting started in this, so thanks a lot to all you guys. And since it is, of course, holiday times, I want to celebrate that by starting Red-Rupee's official holiday DLC giveaway. I couldn't think of a fancy name, so there it is for you. And it's going to be real simple. Anyone who's a subscriber, if you leave a comment on this video, you will be entered in a random drawing. The top 5 will get any DLC that they want. They can let me know. Any one pack, you know, army skin packs, last stand war gear, if you want like the Tau Commander, any of those, I will Steam gift it to you. What else do I got hanging around? Oh, I've got a bunch of copies of Bastion if you're interested in the game Bastion. Not relevant to Dawn of War or Warhammer 40k at all, but probably the best indie game that's hit the market this year. I just have a bunch of copies laying around, so DLC or Bastion, all you gotta do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video, and you'll be entered in for one of the 5 possible winners for that. I'll leave this up for a week starting today on Sunday, December 11th, and on through next Sunday. Then after that, I'll count them all up, pull some random names, and let you guys know who the winners are. So just subscribe, leave a comment, and that'll be that. Hopefully, also, keep in mind, this is just trying to spur comments and discussions in general. Don't be afraid to just leave comments on the videos. I like seeing players, like, leave feedback or have, like, discussions back and forth about what the high points, the low points, or this was really cool strategically, or I like when this player did this, or he should have done that. I just like seeing discussion of the games happen on the channel. But anyways, that's enough for me. Keep that in mind. I'll be pulling the drawings next Sunday, and let's get this game started. In the meantime, of course, we are on Calderas Refinery. We're hanging out looking over all the cliffs here and the little hoodoos here and there throughout the terrain. And on the red side, we've got Optimus Prime right here as our big green war boss, very optimistic. And Grunk on the other side, our blue player, as the Warp Spider Exarch for the Eldar team. So of course the Warp Spider is going to be pretty solid in this big giant spread out map of Calderas Refinery. Of course Warp Spider always has a pretty solid advantage just as far as map control goes so far on here, and the War Boss is going to be a bit slower, of course, being the Orky army. Very aggressive, but the War Boss himself rather slow, so it'll be interesting to see if he can keep up with the map control that the Warp Spider will be bringing to the table. Anyways, Optimus Prime getting himself the pretty standard double shooter opening, and Grunk getting some Banshees onto the field right now, just doing some basic capping. You can see he's going for what looks like double power right now, while meanwhile Optimus Prime just kind of taking his side of the map gradually. So Warp Spider just hopping all over the place, gonna start harassing some sluggers right out of the gate here. Always good to try to get in some easy model kills with the Warp Spider early on. Harassing is the name of the game with him, especially against Ork. You really want to keep them wreck-bled so they can't keep bringing squads onto the field. So Grunk looks like he's just getting some power, probably going to be going for maybe a quick shuriken. Didn't bring a 3rd squad onto the field right now yet. So probably holding out for a little bit of tech. Meanwhile, the Warp Spider's still hanging out, still taking some pot shots at Orcs. Looks like he managed to drop a slugger maybe. And still just warping around trying to hold up all of the Orcs on this side of the map while he can spread out and take the rest of the map with his Banshees and so forth. So he did pop that secondary power node as well, trying to hold on to that. But the Sluggers look like they are probably going to be able to take care of that. And the Guardians aren't going to be a stand up to these 2 shooter squads. They're both in green cover. The Warp Spider, I think, could actually do good to warp over here and melee one of these shooter boys. But he's just trying to protect that power node. It does go down, unfortunately, and now that the sluggers are out of melee, they're taking more damage. Of course, when a squad is in melee, it does take reduced range damage. That's something that not everyone knows, so keep that in mind. Meanwhile, those shooter boys do force off the Guardians. Looks like the Warboss got in a little tussle here with the Banshees, managed to take one of those out, but they pushed him back and now are going to return the favor to Optimus Prime and take out his secondary power cap right here. Unfortunately for Grunk, though, the big shooters are now getting upgraded and they're going to start shredding through the power here. He only has one generator up, but it's still going to be unfortunate to lose that and possibly his cap as well if he doesn't get out there to do something about that. Luckily, he's brought a shuriken cannon onto the field, and that was the quick shuriken I was expecting, and it's moving right on in to try to scare these big shooters out of here. They didn't quite manage to get that cap, which is good because Grunk will have to wait to try to get some generators back up. And the VPs have been staying neutral throughout all of this, surprisingly. Normally the Warp Spider's trying to warp around and take the VPs and start pushing that map control advantage. But the center points remained uncapped so far. Additionally, Optimus Prime is kind of floating a lot of wreck right here. He needs to get these generators up or he's going to fall behind in tech. Just losing a bit of his macro skill right there. And you can see Ard Boy's being popped on that Warboss, and he's going to be able to tank right through all these Banshees. Really, Grunk does have the aspect on them. He probably could have just fleet-of-footed away and retreated until that buff wore off, then ran back in and probably dealt with that Warboss without too much issue. But a bit of an oversight there, and he does have to fall back. And finally taking the center victory point, Grunk goes ahead and moves in on that. A generator coming onto the field now, and a squad of Storm Boys as well. That was what Optimus was waiting on, was to get those Storm Boys onto the field to deal with that shuriken cannon, because the shooters and sluggers will just fall to that way too easily.
We trust in your guidance.
So the Warp Spider hopping around all over the place, gonna try to take some pot shots at the Warboss and scare him off of the map. The Warboss has kind of been just running around doing his own thing, not really rolling with the army so far. Hopefully Optimus Prime's just trying to wait to get that victory point. Oh, and he does get out of there. Okay, that's good. I was afraid he wasn't watching. The two squads of big shooters moving in on these Guardians, they fleet afoot and get the heck out of there. They know they can't stand up to that kind of firepower, and they are going to be flanking up behind the shuriken cannon, so that shuriken is going to have to turn around pretty quickly if it's not careful. Oh, and the Guardians put up a shield, but they're on the wrong side of it, those two squads of big shooters. Oh, and it looks like the shield actually, what happened there, I believe, is the shields do have collision space, and they actually blocked off the escape of the Guardians, and he lost a Guardian squad there because of that. That's very unfortunate. If you've seen, this actually is used by some players to block off specific areas of the map, almost like kind of barbed wire or something would be used in Company of Heroes if you've ever played that. I think I actually have a game on Judgment of Carrion where I think Lindonen or one of the players, I don't remember who it is, used the Guardian shields to block off areas of the map from capping squads. So something to keep in mind, and very unfortunate turn there for Grunk killing those Guardians. He's going to bring them right back onto the field though. Not deterred at all, but he is going to be on the losing side of this Tier 1 battle right now, unfortunately, especially now that he's lost a couple more generators right there to those big shooters. So other than that, it looks like the Warp Spider's gotten himself some improved targeters, which of course give him some excellent range and increased range damage. You can see he's already level 2 now because he's just been picking off shooter boys and orcs all over the place in general. Yeah, I can hear the Banshee screaming over here, trying to keep those Storm Boys and Sluggers. Just a big melee pile of orcs over here. Banshee's not going to be able to stand up to that on their own at all. Right now, Grunk does need to get that victory point back. Hopefully he warps up with that War Spider and takes that back. There he goes, as I'm saying it. And Optimus Prime just taking back the right side of the map here. Just has a squad on each cap point right now. And doing a pretty excellent job of keeping that War Spider from maintaining map control. VP is pretty much even so far. Grunk's lost quite a bit of power and just been wreck-starved for a little while now, losing these generators, and that squad of Guardians pushed him back pretty hard. So it looks like probably Optimus Prime is going to be hitting Tier 3 well before him. Or sorry, Tier 2. Tier 3 would be a bit quick for this early in the game. So the Storm Boys fired their jump, and oh, unfortunately, just landed right in front of a squad of Banshees and a Shuriken Cannon, and they just get the heck out of there right away, knowing that's a losing situation. Meanwhile, the Guardians getting caught out of position with those shooters again, lost a model, but Grunk was pretty quick to acknowledge that and got out of there without losing too much more than that initial model. Looks like only one drop there. So Warboss getting caught in that Shuriken Cannon. He's got nothing to do about that, just trying to bide some time, I guess, and keep that Warp Spider from capping things, and then falls back out of that area. Oh, and you can see, looks like we got Use Your Choppas on the Slugger squad here, so those Banshees are going to be in a bit of trouble. They do hit the fleet of foot and get out of there, but they lost a few models. Looks like they downed the 3 Banshees out of there. So 2 Sluggers for 2 Banshees, not too bad, but Banshees are of course a bit more expensive on that. So, but all things considered, when User's Chop is triggered and you don't lose more than a few models, you can consider that a win for yourself. So it turns out both players are going to Tier 2 at the same time. Grunk managed to catch up in that tech war there, despite losing quite a bit in Tier 1. Still has a bit of a smaller army, but been doing a good job of keeping that map control, as War Spider tends to do. Grunk has not much in the ways of requisition. You can see on the mini-map, Optimus Prime has all the rec points right now. But and the Storm Boys now moving in on the Shuriken Cannon, a big jump landing right behind it. That's going to need to get out of there very quickly. It does retreat and manages not to lose any models. Storm Boy's not particularly good at killing on retreat, unfortunately. They tend to do that little rocket jump, which doesn't actually do anything, and then they miss their swing. So Guardians trying to cap that wreck point. They know the Storm Boys are closing in. You can see popped a fleet of foot there in preparation of that jump, but unfortunately he held out long enough that they weren't able to do much about that. Shooter Boys again breaking Grunk's power cap over here and decapping that in the meantime. And Optimus Prime bringing the good old Weird Boy out onto the field. The Weird Boy's just so useful. There's really not a game that I see Ork play that they shouldn't get a Weird Boy. Just has way too many options as far as supporting the main Ork force goes. So Grunk just kind of trying to hold out, I think, and keep do his best to keep Optimus Prime spread out. You can see the Warboss has gotten himself a nice power claw. Slug is moving in while the shooters use the aiming. What's that on the Shuriken weapon platform? And we've got an Altark drop hitting those Shooter Boys, but a very quick retreat saved them. You can see that was an excellent spread too, right on that retreat path. If Optimus Prime had been a little bit slower, those Shooter Boys probably would have been toast. And with that Power Claw, the Warboss is pretty much just one-shotting any Eldar models on the field right now if he manages to get in melee. With that Altark on the field, though, she's going to be able to harass and run around and keep those Shooter Boys under control for pretty much whenever she wants. She's just such a quick unit, really going to help out with the map control. You can see Grunk's just moving around all over the place between this Altark and the Warp Spider right now. Probably be able to do some pretty solid control of the map. Weird Boy shot right into the middle of those Banshees. They fleet-of-footed just in time to kind of get out of the way of most of that splash damage. And the Storm Boys now on the field with their Storm Boy knob. So they'll be able to stun with that jump. Warp Spider warps right out from underneath of them at the last possible second. And as would be expected. And the Warboss just kind of moving up and retreating from the other side of the map there. Moving up on his own. Again, just kind of trying to run around and cause some havoc on his own. Not really been hanging out with the army too much. Optimus Prime getting himself a Death Dread, which we don't see very often these days. It'll be probably a pretty good purchase. Grunk doesn't really have too much to answer that with right now. All he would really have at this particular point would be his Banshees, but of course he is a Warp Spider. Doesn't have the red for a Warp Spider call-in. But looks like the Storm Boys jumping in again and hitting this cannon. Looks like they popped Art Boys again. That Shuriken needs to retreat right now. Oh, you can see. Grunk trying to fire a grenade expecting the Storm Boys to retreat, but they didn't fall back very quickly, and he hit more of his Banshees. The Storm Boys are down to a single model, though, and 2 models. But it looks like they're just barely getting away. Aiming what's that used to suppress that Altark and kept those out of harm's way. A daring escape by those Storm Boys. I'm not sure if the Sluggers will be so lucky. It looks like the Banshees tried to take out the Shooters instead. Not worrying about that. So a pretty excellent push by Grunk there. Of course, the Altark and the Banshees are just such a nasty combination together. They're just extremely mobile and can cause some pretty heavy damage output very quickly. So the Death Dread's now on the field, running around harassing the Altark. Big, goofy-looking robot thing that it is. And Optimus Prime heading on into Tier 3 now after getting his 2 Tier 2 squads in the form of the Weird Boy and the Death Dread, of course. Grunk has brought some Warp Spiders onto the field, so Optimus Prime's going to have to be careful and make sure he supports that Death Dread, which is stomping across the map very angrily right now. Possibly en route to some power, perhaps. That's going to be quite an overextension for that walker. I know he doesn't know that these Warp Spiders are on the field yet, but he should be aware that it's possible that they're out there. And once the Banshees get that X-Arc and the Warp Spider Haywire Grenade goes off, that Death Dread can find itself in a rather dangerous situation. So it looks like the Orc squads are moving onto the field now. And just in a big orky pile right here, rolling out. Probably going to push this center victory point. The Death Dread, however, and Weird Boy way over here. I don't know if they're going to flank in from the opposing side or not. Guardian Shield's going up to try to fortify that position. And all the Orcs are moving in. But a lot of range damage coming out of those Warp Spiders, of course. A nice looking Guardian Grenade hitting those Sluggers. The Shooters had to get out of there after taking all that fire already. Oh, and the Weird Boy is coming in from the backside. Oh no, shot right into a pile of Orcs. Actually probably caused more damage to them than the Eldar. Very unfortunate. And a Warp Vomit being used to knock that whole pile back. Where's the... Oh, here's the Death Dread way back here. I don't know what it's doing. I guess he got some power, but really I think he should have been using that to help out with the engagement up here. I think if he engaged one of those range squads early on, the Shooters wouldn't have had to get out. And that Death Dread just would have been in a much better position in support of the army, I think. He did manage to get a power bash. Hopefully that'll work out, but I don't think that Death Dread's going to be able to get out of here, especially with all those Banshees moving in. Warboss is moving in for some support, swinging away, knocking out some Warp Spiders, but the Death Dread does go down, and that Warboss is not going to be able to deal with all this. He needs to get out of there. Hardboy's being popped, but even with all that, oh, that's just going to be too much, I think. He's running away now. I'm not sure if he's getting out of there. The Altark probably going to jump ahead. There she goes. He's got a mere 30 HP left. One swing's probably going to do him. There he goes. Very unfortunate. He almost got out with that excellent big stomp. And Hardboy's being used on him at the last second. But that Altark managed to get into his retreat path and take him out at the last second. So good play by Grunk, taking out that Warboss. But the Orcs are moving onto the field again, destroying that Guardian Shield as they try to put it up. Altark jumping in for some disruption, but the Weird Boy's knocking over all kinds of baddies. And the Storm Boys are going to be able to make short work of that Altark, so he needs to get out of there. Again, that Weird Boy causing a bit more havoc to his own squad than the Eldar. You really need to watch the range fire on that Weird Boy. Either set him to range or a melee stance and then use the attack ground, or, you know, just try to keep an eye on where he's firing, because if you've got melee squads, it's going to hurt. Oh no, here goes another one. Oh, thank God he targeted the Warp Spider. I was afraid that was going to hit his Storm Boys, but the Storm Boys did get in and take out a couple of those Warp Spiders. These Storm Boys going to have to be very careful as the Banshees are moving in once again, though. And the Warp Spider does go down. Oh no, he should have tried to get out of there a little sooner. Hardboy's being popped yet again on these Storm Boys. Level 2 Banshees. Oh, and Warp Vomit, just disruption all over the place coming. Oh, the Altark goes down. One Banshee left. It looks like she's going to get away, though. As I was saying earlier, Storm Boys just don't do very well on retreat. They need to get out of there. The Warp Spider's taking them out. Oh, man. The Knob has 30 HP and just barely managed to get out of there. Altark's in hot pursuit. Oh, no, but the Warp Spiders warp in and finish him off. Oh, that's a heavy squad to lose right there. Those Storm Boys were very important. They did take out the Shuriken earlier in the match, which will help out a little bit, but very unfortunate to lose those and the Death Dread at this point in the game. He is into Tier 3, though, so we'll see. It looks like he's saving up some wreck and power here, so he's got something to bring onto the field pretty soon. Altar coming under fire from the Sluggers and the Warboss, but the Warboss can't quite get in to get his heavy melee in there. And the Sluggers just falling like flies to those Warp Spiders. Those Warp Spiders now level 2, doing some pretty significant damage. Trying to get some more retreat kills. Those Warp Spiders just doing some pretty nasty damage on retreat. They have warped around quite a bit though, and do lose a model to that swing. Like I said, that Warboss pretty much just takes out an Eldar unit with each swing of that Power Claw. And at the last second, the Altark fleets of foot to get out of there. The Warp Spiders warp away, but right into a pile of shooters. Excellent positioning by Optimus Prime. Grunk probably should have reconsidered his warp and probably warped back in this direction in the help of his army. You gotta be careful with those impulse Warp Spider warps. You gotta keep in mind where you're getting to. Don't just try to get away from the enemy. Try to make sure you're also getting in a position that will leave your Warp Spiders not exposed. So Zap's been bouncing around to the Banshees and the Altark. The Altark's looking pretty low right now. And Grunk is moving into tier 3 himself. So evening out the tech score here. Looks like the Orcs actually, Optimus Prime is a little bit behind on VPs right now. He needs to try to make sure he keeps that VP in his favor right there. And nice shot by the Weird Boy, but that Altark escapes the Warp Vomit and starts hammering away at him right now. Shooter Boys have them suppressed, but I think that that Weird Boy is just falling back. The Banshees overextending themselves a bit, going to be caught between two shooter squads here. The Weird Boy getting another shot off, doesn't quite connect with anything, but ultimately just the Altark Banshee left, and she's got to run through this gauntlet of two big shooter squads here, and she does escape, fortunately enough. Altark jumping in, and the Warp Spider's right behind her, probably going to try to take out a couple Shooter Boy models. Good job moving those out of position from that Weird Boy shot. They are getting zapped though, so they'll be taking some reasonable damage from that. Those Shooter Boys have been finding themselves out of position quite a bit. They really need to make sure they're staying in green cover around those Warp Spiders. Guardians engaging in melee right there, and actually a melee special from the Weird Boy. You don't see that very often at all, knocking all those Guardians to the ground. You rarely see that. Nice looking grenade, keeping that Warboss off of the Guardians. They're going to turn and fire a little more. Warboss now upgraded with both Angry Bits and the Cyborg implants, so he's going to charge in and probably do a big stomp here as well. And there it is. Luckily the Guardians are quick enough to move away from that and not take the stun, so the Warboss, has to retreat there. There's just too many W's in this game. I'm sorry. There's Warp Spider, Exarch, and Weird Boys, and Warboss, and Warp Spiders. Speaking of Warp Spiders, they're pursuing that Warboss tenaciously, and he just barely gets out of there with 14 HP. Knobs are on the field though, and they've already got their meaner and greener upgrade. So Optimus Prime putting on the tier 3 pressure now, while Grunk's still waiting to get his first tier 3 upgrade onto the field. But Grunk's still been managing to do a good job of maintaining map control throughout all of this. At this point, it's kind of just going back and forth on this VP and this center battlefield, as it tends to do towards the later game of Calderis. So some Slugger Boys up here, finding them a bit out of position with those Banshees around. Popped Hard Boys and got out of there. They did manage to kill all the power down here, luckily, but did lose quite a few models. So Optimus Prime's been doing a great job of just keeping Grunk's power income minimal. He is tier 3, but he's not going to be able to bring anything tier 3 out right now. Frenzy being activated on those knobs, so they're just going to take the abuse and hammer away at those Banshees. The Altar support, of course, keeping those Banshees rather safe. And now the knobs are hunting down those Warp Spiders. Meanwhile, the Altark's jumping in on the shooters. She is very low, though. She's going to need to be quite careful. She's going to have to retreat through those knobs, unfortunately. And, oh no, the knobs don't quite see her and went for the Warp Spider instead and let her escape. Just a couple swings, I'm sure, would have done her in. The Warp Spiders, meanwhile, are level 2 and just hammering away at these knobs. You can see got them down to about half HP. Optimus Prime pulled them back. Didn't want to lose any of those models as they are very expensive to reinforce. And the Banshee's now moving in on the Shooter Boys, and they just have to get out of there right away. Warp Spiders, of course, moving in and trying to cause as much retreat damage as they can. The Shooter Boy's getting very low here. Gonna be making another daring escape. There's been several instances of Optimus Prime just barely getting away from all that nasty retreat damage that Grunk has on the field. Between the Banshees, the Altark, and those Warp Spiders, you just have to be very cautious and make sure you retreat a little early. Oh, an excellent big stomp coming in right as the Banshees and Altark jump in on him. And looks like that actually took out the Banshee Exarch. And now he's just swinging away at those Banshees with that Power Claw. So doing some excellent damage, of course, with the Warboss now. Angry Bits charging right into those Banshees, not letting them get out of there that easily. But he does have to retreat. He got pretty low there, and the Exarch does come right back onto the field. And again, that Altark just hunting people down. Looks like the Warboss is going to get out of there just barely. She's not quite quick enough to keep up with him, and the Shooter Boys are now on the field to support him, along with those knobs. Oh, and it looks like we have an Eldar calling an Eldritch Storm. No Tier 3 units on the field, but not hesitating to use that Tier 3 global ability and keeping Optimus Prime back in his base, and that's going to give Grunk some nice time to take the map back. Unfortunately, it looks like these Banshees aren't capping because they're just getting hammered by that Weird Boy. He is on the field, and it looks like they do have to get out of there. That was a nice shot right on top of that Exarch. But it looks like Grunk's evening this score right back out and now has a 2-0 cap against Optimus Prime. That Weird Boy's not going to be able to stay on the field against those Warp Spiders. Grunk just keeping everyone aware of how mobile the Eldar army is and really pushing this map advantage right now. Looks like he's finally bringing some Tier 3 onto the field in the form of a D-Cannon weapon team. And the knobs are now moving in. Unfortunately, with Warp Spiders and the Altark and Banshees, those knobs have just been not quick enough to do too much damage to the Eldar army. Very unfortunate. Optimus Prime floating all kinds of resource, though. I'm not sure what he wants to buy at this point. Oh, and just as I say that, he purchases himself an Ork battle wagon. So that'll certainly bring some nice heavy range damage onto the field and a nice big vehicle that even with the Warp Spiders and Banshees will be pretty difficult to take down. So again, and this is what I'm talking about, with all these quick units, you can see the knobs just aren't even getting into battle until they're hanging out at about half HP. Oh, and an excellent use of Singularity, probably going to hit those knobs on retreat. Oh, they're going to, oh, there it goes. Oh, splatted a couple of those knobs, and 3 knobs left with very low HP. The Altark jump is speeding those Banshees up. Warp Spiders, of course, trying to kill on retreat. There goes another jump, and those knobs are going to be in a bit of peril. There goes 1, 2, oh my goodness, 98 HP, one more swing, and the Altark jumps in, doesn't quite get the hit. Oh, that was very dangerous. And again, we're just seeing the amazing retreat potential for kills that Grunk has between the Warp Spiders and the extremely fast Altark and Banshees. And as soon as Optimus gets off the field, between the Warp Spiders and his Exarch, he can just take these VPs instantly. That's the map control I was talking about earlier, is that even with Optimus Prime having a large army and doing significant damage to Grunk throughout most of the game here, just not being able to keep the map, because as soon as he falls back, the Warp Spider doesn't hesitate to take those VPs right away. So the D-Cannon's setting up in the back. Warp Spider's getting hammered by that battle wagon. They're going to need to be very careful here. Oh, and a nice shot by that D-Cannon, plastering some orcs to the ground there. And a big shot going off on that cannon, blasting that D-Cannon away there. The Altark is disrupting those big shooters, though, of course, as the Banshees retreat. And looks like Grunk's losing a couple Warp Spiders there. Fires that Haywire Grenade just to get a little damage and slow down that battle wagon while he can. But that Altark's probably going to have to get out of there as the Weird Boy and Noppa moving back in on the field. Optimus Prime has plenty of army, just needs to hold this map at this point. He's down to under 100 VPs as opposed to Grunk, who's still sitting at the halfway point right around 250. But unfortunately, Optimus Prime just not able to hold the map. His Warboss kind of rolling around here trying to cause some havoc. At this point, I think he should kind of just consolidate his forces and try to hold these VPs, but still trying to do as much support damage with that Warboss as he can. He is a pretty gnarly force, on his own at this point with the Angry Bits. Now he's got his heavy armor and that Power Claw. So it's going to be very difficult to take down. Charging into all these forces, but still taking some pretty heavy damage on the entry there. After knocking all those Eldar all over the place, he's going to need to get out of there. So the Eldar are swarming him once again. I'm not sure if he's getting out of here this time. Lots of retreat damage happening. Down to under 100 HPs. And down to 20. Oh my goodness, is the Altar going to get that hit? 9. Oh, there he goes. Oh my goodness. And just stayed in a bit too long. But again, Grunk just manages to hunt down those squads on retreat. Luckily, in the meantime, the Knobs have managed to flank behind the Eldar. The Battle Wagons, unfortunately, kind of hanging way back here. Could probably be supporting these Knobs. They're a bit out of position. They do manage to scare off most of the Eldar army. But the Weird Boy was doing some damage as well on the other side of the map. So Grunk getting pushed back into his base. Oh, the Knobs falling back. Probably didn't need to do that at that particular point. Probably could have just moved this Battle Wagon up, like I said, to support those. I know you don't want to get that Battle Wagon out of position, but it's at full HP, and with Knobs on the field, there's really not much more support that you could hope for, because it looks like that Battle Wagon is full of some shooter boys there. So a bit of a misusage for Optimus Prime. Now bringing a looted tank onto the field, so one of everything in Tier 3 for Optimus Prime right now. It's going to be a pretty hard force for Grunk to deal with, but again, Eldar army is just so quick, moving right out here. The Altark jumps up to grab that VP, and the Warp Spider grabbing the center as well. So Warp Spider's moving in. You can see Grunk now has 2 squads of Warp Spiders. Oh, and the Haywire Grenade goes off right before that big shot goes off on the Battle Wagon. The Orcs need to get out here right away and try to hold these VPs. Battle Wagon's in a bit of trouble. Oh, and a second Haywire going off. You can see Grunk stagger those just well enough to keep this Battle Wagon disabled for a very long period of time. That looted tank needs to get on the field along with those sluggers so they can support this Battle Wagon. And while this Battle Wagon is disabled, those shooters should probably just get out and start firing at these Eldar. And there goes the Battle Wagon. The Death Roller now activated. These Knobs in a lot of trouble, though. Been getting hammered by those Banshees and Warp Spiders this entire time. The Death Roller kind of just hanging out, though, not really doing much damage, unfortunately. And the Altark, oh, and the Warp Spider do take out the last of the Knobs there. That Battle Wagon's looking pretty nasty. Now finally the shooters come out. But oh dear, taking a lot of damage from the D-Cannon and all this range stuff here. It looks like one squad did go down right there. Oh my goodness, and it looks like that's about to be the game because Optimus Prime just doesn't have any map control. That's it. Oh goodness. Optimus Prime had such a good Orky force on the field, but just couldn't hold the map to save his life. The Altark is just such a pain in the butt to take out and keep her from running all over the place. She's just very quick and very disruptive. And of course the Warp Spiders and the Exarch himself. You can see the D-Cannon firing a nice looking cool little shot there into that Battle Wagon at the very end. So unfortunately for Optimus Prime, did a great job in most of the engagement and caused lots of hurt. I'm pretty sure he was ahead as far as unit kills and resources go throughout the game, but just couldn't hold those VPs against the Warp Spider. So the mobility of the Eldar army reigns supreme once again. It's a pretty cool game, all things considered. Lots of cool stuff going on. Anyways, well played by both sides. Hope you guys enjoyed the game. Don't forget about the DLC giveaway. Leave some comments, and hopefully you'll win some cool stuff. This is Red-Rupee. I'll catch you guys next time.